Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area Board of Education on May the 4th, 2026 at 6:59 p.m. If I can get started first with a roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler,
Here.
Mr. Francisco,
Here.
Mrs. Larson,
Here.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Here.
Mr. De Vera,
Here.
Miss Lee.
Here.
All right, first up is our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, we would need a motion to approve the meeting agenda as listed.
So,
Second.
Motion by Mr. De Vera, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Miss Lee. Yes.
Motion carries. We have an approved agenda, and first up on that is special recognition and our Tech Campus students of the third quarter and our Principal Peterson.
Good evening, everybody. So in the past, we've talked about the success of our students in the Tech Campus and how amazing that program is. And to continue on that path, we once again have students of the quarter for third quarter. So if I could, can I get all the students who are here tonight for Tech Campus Student of the Quarter, please, to come to the front? So I'd like to honor our students who have shown a lot of hard work and commitment to the pathway that they've chosen at Tech Campus. And tonight we're going to honor Daniel Tover for construction skills and management, Chanel Velasquez for culinary arts, Kareme Luna for medical assisting, Jocelyn Estrada, certified nurse assisting and construction skills. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Jocelyn Estrada, certified nursing. Carrie Cruz, construction skills and management. Sidlali Paez, early education and teaching 1. Elizabeth Montez, early education and teaching 2. And Jimena Romero, forensic investigations.
All right, next up are our athletes of the month and our athletic director, Mr. Karolzak.
hi, good evening, everybody. Sorry, excuse me. So we're recognizing our March athletes of the month. They're really busy, and so they had away contests at the last meeting. So, but I'm excited to be able to recognize them here this evening. And we'll start with our male athlete of the month from our baseball program. Our head baseball coach, Mike Mostalski, will come up and say a few words. But those nice words will be about our March Male Athlete of the Month, sophomore baseball player Landon Lyon. Come on up, Landon.
I'm very proud to announce Landon as that athlete of the month. He's a phenomenal player for the varsity baseball team. In the offseason, he worked extremely hard. I know it's probably hard to imagine, but he was even smaller last year as a freshman, and he gained a lot of weight, a lot of muscle, and he just got a lot better. He hit 538 in April or March and a little bit of April, which was first in conference. And he's a sophomore right now playing on varsity, and he's leading conference in hitting. He slugged 768, which is second in conference, and his on-base percentage was 647, which is also first in conference. Again, all this being done while he's just a sophomore right now. The amount he's worked has really paid off as well. He goes to all the open gyms. He gets in the weight room. He's gotten significantly better. So just having him with us, around us, being a leader, even as a sophomore on varsity, has been phenomenal for him all year. And he's been great all year for us. So that's all I got to say for him.
Congrats to Landon. All right, our female athlete of the month for March comes from our softball program. Our head softball coach, Dan Barry, is going to come up in just a second to say some nice things about her. But our March female athlete of the month from softball is Ariana Cabral.
Little shorter than everybody else. Ariana's been fantastic for us during the start of the month. She's a 4-year varsity softball player for us. She's our mainstay catcher behind the plate. The first half of the season, she was hitting well above 300. Had 2 big inside the park home runs with her speed. Laid down a great sack bunt to try and get a runner in a close game we had earlier in the year. Her biggest asset, though, is her leadership qualities. She's not a big vocal person. All right, but her quiet leadership, as far as coming every day, doing the right things. She puts a great effort in at practice, at games. The catcher's one of the busiest and most active positions on the field, and she works her butt off back there. Couldn't be more proud of her. She exemplifies everything that Panther Pride, as far as we have going, effort, dedication, perseverance. She's been banged up a little bit being behind the plate. And she's stayed with it. She's dealt through it and continued to play for us and come in big in a couple games. Trying to help us do things the right way and teach a young team doing things the right way every day at practice. And she's been a big part of that.
All right, next up, we will transition to the Organic Life presentation, and Ms. Amsel.
Good evening. Sorry, I forgot how to do this. It's usually Erica, but she's out sick. Good evening. So today we'll do our third update of the year and final update for the year. First off, we're going to start with participation numbers from August to March year to date. For elementary meals, we do it on an average meals per day basis. We've seen kind of the same trend as we did in our last meeting in the middle of the year, where we see that small drop compared to last year. It is worth to note, we realized this late today that the graph is missing village, but we were able to pass out a figure for village, so sorry about that, our apologies. For McGee, around Lake Middle and high school, around the same too. It's bless you. It's stayed around the same with the same normal drop that we saw last year. I mean last meeting. For EEC, we have seen an increase in enrollment in EEC, so that's why we see this increase in snack. But other than that, it's stayed around the same from last year. As a total, we see them lower this year about 5%. A big part of that is the drop in enrollment, which has plateaued. The other part that we're looking into and just more engagement with menu items and increasing more awareness of the program. So part of our big focus this past quarter and along with T and our big focus going into the summer for next year is doing a lot of try-it events. We want to focus on increasing participation, bringing those meals back up to where they were the previous year. So one of the things that we did is we're kind of piggybacking on any events that the school's having with the community. It's hard to get people to come just to try samples, even though it sounds appeasing. But if we can go to like a choir festival or any wellness nights, we're able to catch audiences there that wouldn't normally we'd be able to just bring them in. So in the choir festival, we did a lot of samples of the breakfast items. We gave out surveys, and we gave out a lot of information for families and parents that were there. So I think a big part of this that we saw in our feedback was parents were really engaged in knowing what we're offering and how participating in a free school meal program can help their households as well. Things like, how much time you spend packing a meal for your student. And what's available too. They were trying the food and say, well, my kid says there's just pizza, but there's not, right? There's more components. So we explain those items of the program, and they can in turn help us be a voice for us to help students participate in breakfast and or lunch. Another event that we were part of this year in our participation outreach was something that we do every year already. We partner with Danny Navarro and the Spanish department on World Language Night. She's also been great in helping us, get contacts with people. And normally every year we sponsor equipment for the families to come and serve their food. We also help mitigate any food safety risks with food being brought from home. But this year, and we also usually feature like a culturally relevant menu item. But this year, we thought we'd also push our participation efforts by actually bringing food we're serving and you try it sample items. Like our biggest hit was the apple cinnamon overnight oats and the egg bites. They really like those. There's sort of like an arroz con leche taste to it, so it really hit home with a lot of our demographic. And the kids were excited to see that, hey, this is going to be featured on the menu tomorrow. Make sure you get in line, make sure you do that, because most of them are not looking at the menu like parents are. They just show up. So if they're able to see what we're offering, they get more engaged. So same thing, we were able to show samples to them and engage with families and students as well. Another event that's traditional already at Round Lake is, but we changed it up a little this year, was the pasta challenge as opposed to the pizza challenge, which some of you are board members here and T were gracious to join us and judge that day. It was very fun. The kids saw how in the past they'd see it, they build a pizza, but this time it was a lot more involved. They actually cooked their own sauces from scratch. It was, you know, a bunch of toppings. And one thing that I noticed this year is I feel students are more in touch with what they want to eat. I heard words like texture and seasonings and things like that you normally didn't hear from kids back then. So it's refreshing to hear that and get good feedback from them, which is what we did during this activity as well. While their pasta was cooking, we did a quick feedback activity with them, gave them some surveys, and got some good data back on our stations to help us refine those. The winning pasta was featured on the menu by these three young ladies. They named the pasta the Goats, which was featured just this past couple weeks ago, and that's what it looked like. And we actually served it all across the district. We made it a little spicier for the little ones, but it was just as good. Yeah, thank you. Also, just we wanted to highlight School Lunch Hero Day, which was this past Friday, May 1st. We always observe that with our staff and just give them gratitude for what difference they make. You know, takes a village. School food service program is the biggest restaurant in town. It takes a lot to do what they do. So we're very proud to have them. We do have a great staff around Lake here that we've been having for a while. So we're really happy for them. Another thing that started today, I wanted to highlight this to Teacher Appreciation Week. During this week, you know, we're proud to partner with the district and provide meals for staff members all across the district. Starting today through the end of the week, we're just grateful for the partnership with the district and for the opportunity to support not just your students, but like the staff that makes this happen. Looking ahead, like I said earlier, our main focus for the summer and obviously the fall when we get back is increasing participation. More menu advisory meetings, tried events to promote menu items, community event booths, so getting out there on orientation days on all schools, getting the word out there of what the food looks like and what it tastes like, all in an effort to increase gaining feedback for menus, promote the program, and increase participation. Again, we're grateful for another incredible school year with the district and serving the students and community of Round Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I do have one. Did you have one? I do have a couple questions, but first I did want just to thank Organic Life for their partnership for Teacher Appreciation Week, and of course I do want to thank all the lunch workers for Lunch Hero Week again.
Thank you.
Our students wouldn't be fed and get their meals without the partnership with Organic Life and all those that work in the lunchrooms across the district. So thank you to all of you. But I do have a question. The Triad events, which I think is great. I was just wondering, I think maybe a great opportunity, I don't know if maybe you all are even thinking about it already, but like when we do our registration events, especially for elementary students and those families that come in, that may be a great way to get our food menu and those food items introduced to our families as they're coming into the district and those registration events. I don't know if that's even an option or an opportunity.
Yeah, we're open to anything and everything. Another thing would be orientation days for freshmen. Is something that we're looking at because when the incoming freshmen are, you know, they're scared of the new building. We want them to see how obviously high school food is a little different than middle school, so they know where to go on their first day, and parents can also see anything. So we're available to do all those things.
Yeah, I just think like we have, you know, like the registration for kindergarten, elementary. I think we have like specific events for those. So I mean, that would be a great opportunity for them to hear, see, taste, or Organic Life and the food menu options we have here.
Yes, thank you. We'll get those dates and we'll plan to be there.
Okay, great. And then, so as you mentioned, I think it's great that you're doing these, Tried events like at the Choir Festival and all these happening. Did you say you were giving out surveys to families?
We were giving out surveys on the items they tasted that day, and most of the feedback was good. It was great, actually, except some kids, I mean, it's preferences about egg bites. I didn't know there was such a spectrum. I love egg bites, but some of them didn't. Um, but the overnight oats were a big hit, and we featured them the next day, and we did see a jump in kids eating that day.
I was just curious about the survey. I just wanted to ask if it was just specific to those items, or is it a survey with the program overall? Is that something maybe you're even thinking about doing?
Yeah, it was specific to those items at that time, but I think moving forward, we do have something called our Better Bite Survey, which we can share with families once we do the registration events and all that.
Great, that's all I had. Again, thank you so much.
Hearing nothing else, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is medical and dental insurance rates for 2026-2027. Dr. Schuth.
Good evening. As we do each year, we present the rates for NIHIP to you just as a matter of information. You can see that we have the 5-year trend here just to give you a sense of what happens each year. Please note at the bottom that sometimes it does say NA in those boxes because we haven't renegotiated a contract for that specific thing that year. So it doesn't change in those years. So that's why the NA is there. But ultimately, that's just communication to you for your review each year.
I do want to just remind the board, we are part of the NIHIP co-op. It is one of, if not the largest co-ops around. We can do, the benefit of doing that is we leverage sharing the burden of the increases and sharing the health costs across a larger co-op. I actually worked in a district that was a little bit larger than ours, but we were self-insured. And whenever you had periodically significant events, the impact on the renewal rates was noticeable, significantly more than what we see here. So I just want to thank the team for their constant engagement with NIHIP.
The only thing I'll chime in, and you and I have talked about this offline, just the possibility of looking at other partnerships that may or may not be out there. Because the larger a pool we can get in, the better we can insulate ourselves. And I speak of that from the insurance industry. So the larger a pool we can get in, much to Dr. Mendez's point, when you have one or two big claims that will count against you, so to speak, in a smaller pool, it's gonna hit everybody. So the larger we can get, the better we can look for that.
I'm glad that we're part of this co-op. I was just going to ask, as we look at the trend data and we know cost inflation is everywhere. As we look into the next, 1 or 2 school calendar years, do we have an idea of what maybe those costs will be as we talk about our budget as we move forward? I know it's like trying to hit a moving target, but again, coming from the insurance industry myself, specifically healthcare.
We both serve on the NIHIP board, and the business managers have talked about potential increases, and so I'll turn that over to Ms. Amstul.
Thank you.
In informal conversations with just our representative alone who looks at our data and our specific information, they have recommended 10% increases. This year, they had also made that recommendation. We saw a 7.5% increase in PPO and a 7.9% increase in HMO. So they were almost spot on. That's not just them though. Even the liability insurance that we have that we're also in a co-op for, this year, those prices increased 10%. So we're seeing that not just in health and dental, but we're seeing it across the board in insurances. So our projections are right now incorporating 10% increases just to be on the safe side, and given that's the best information coming from the subject matter experts.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And just to contextualize it, good or bad, our budget for insurance is $13 million. So 10%, $1.3 million. So it's a sizable number.
Any additional questions or conversation? Hearing none. Any questions for Dr. King in regards to the disposal list? Hearing none there, we will go ahead and transition on to the financial assurance review.
So can I get, Janera, would you help Mr. Bubness get set up there with the clicker? I just want to make sure he's good. Mr. Bubness, the speaker system there, you got to hold it down while you talk or it shuts off. So, yeah, I'm just going to do just a brief overview while they get set up, just to gently remind the board and the audience. In response to the budget challenge, significant budget challenge we had in August of 25, one of the commitments we made, you made as a board, was to conduct, you could call it a third-party audit above and beyond the state required audit that we get every year. The purpose, though, of this audit was different. We call it a financial review. The purpose was to evaluate things like accuracy, reliability, compliance. A big section of this is transparency and reporting within our finance department. We also wanted to compare what we do with other districts, LUDA specifically. And so what we did is, and I want to thank Ms. Negretti McGinley, essentially I was just a connector. I wasn't really involved in this, which is a proper. But we had a variety of consultants / financial professionals interviewed by Ms. Negretti McGinley, and she selected Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly is global. They're very, very large. In fact, I believe they're one of the largest advisory tax assurance consulting companies in the country. I think they're top 10. High quality professionals. They're all over the world. I've worked with Baker Tilly before in my last district. Very, very, very good. And so Ms. McGinley felt like they would give us the best assessment on what we were looking for. So in the packet, you have 2 documents. We're not going to be going through both. For your convenience and the public's, we have the full report in there available for you to review. And then for the purpose of the board meeting, Mr. Bubness, I'm going to let him do his own introduction. I think I've done it already, but he's going to go through an executive summary PowerPoint, cover the highlights of the financial assurance review. Upon conclusion of that, we certainly encourage you to ask questions. So, pass it off to you.
Sure, thanks. All right, good. That's on. Like Don said, my name is Matt Bubness. I'm with Baker Tilly Advisory Group. I'm out of the Chicago office. We are, I think, the 5th or 6th largest accounting consulting firm in the country. Specifically, I'm a director in the public sector practice. I work primarily with K-12 school districts, mostly financial management, financial forecasting, budgeting, and the like. So just want to make a quick distinction. This is an assessment. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an auditor. Typically, when we're looking at more forward-facing documents like financial forecast and then also financial policies, typically that's not in the CPA realm or the auditor realm. So that's common practice with that. So I don't want to mince words or anything, but I just want to be very clear that this is an audit. It was an assessment. And that's typically what we would do in this type of a situation. So, so just want to go over. Sorry, it's kind of hard to juggle here with holding down the button, and let's see how talented I am here. Just don't ask me to chew gum maybe simultaneously. So overall, the assessment was to evaluate the district's financial reporting, to support governance and overall public accountability. Scope of review, which kind of follows what the agenda is in terms of the major items that I'll be going over tonight, is looking at the board financial management policies and procedures, looking at the reliability of the revenue and expenditure assumptions within the financial forecast, looking at the forecasting methodology itself, and then also comparing that to peers who might have financial forecasts available. Then looking at the internal data reliability and controls, in terms of kind of the nuts and bolts in terms of how the financial forecast worked. And then looking more at the reporting aspect in terms of what's posted on the district's website in terms of compliance with the state of Illinois, in terms of the Illinois School Code, in terms of the transparency and the public availability of that data. And then finally, like Don said, in terms of looking at the comparison, in terms of what other large unit district association peers are doing. We selected those peers based upon some conversations with the district as well. So, let's see. So key findings and overall. So really, the financial reporting strengths, regular preparation and discussion of those documents in terms of kind of recent things that have happened over the last year in terms of improving that overall. A lot of great work has been done in terms of building the financial forecast and really serving as the baseline source of truth, so to speak, in terms of being able to prepare the budget, doing monthly reports as well to department heads, school site folks, and the like. Looking at the use of multi-year projections to inform the budget as well. Really a key thing in order to have that linkage in terms of making sure that you're budgeting in line with what you're forecasting in terms of what the kind of future looks like. You know, how are we able to help better inform and get out ahead of things, being more proactive as opposed to reactive. And then just making sure you're compliant with the overall posting of historical financial information lined up very favorably in terms of not only the requirements of the state, but what also the peer districts are doing as well. The opportunities for improvement are really kind of all in the same vein. With a lot of the financial forecasting and the monthly reporting being more new over the last year, just looking at formalizing that, making sure that's part of the standard operating procedures, or SOPs as we would abbreviate that within the report, to make sure that just becomes part of routine documented practice. So we're not just relying upon you know, what's always been done. It's actually documented, formalized, and it becomes a part of that practice. So when people leave the district, we actually have good practices in place that are well documented for people to follow who would succeed people who might be leaving the district for whatever reason, retirement, moving on, or whatever. So, and then also it's looking at more formalized touch points as well between key district personnel. Sorry, I missed out the personnel at the last bullet there. And finally, just again, what do you do to really enhance that documentation is really the main things there in terms of things that we would see for improvement. So, sorry, I talk with my right hand and I need to click with my right hand here. So sorry for the juggling. So the policies included in the review, we really limited this to section 4, operational services of the board policy manual. So you can see the ones that are listed up there or listed in the slide deck. Looking at the overall kind of fiscal and business management, fund balances, revenue investments, incurrence or issuance of debt. Looking at more what do you do with bad checks or debt recovery in terms of policies related to that. Payment procedures, accounting and auditing in terms of looking at reporting on past financial performance, purchases and contracts, and then finally the student activity funds as well. So policy compliance and the overall governance strength. So the policies followed the required guidance compliance in terms of what's required in the Illinois School Code, ISB rules, and federal regulations, ensuring good practices in terms of financial policies. Several of the financial policies, especially related to accounting and audits, revenue investments, and purchasing, were particularly strong in terms of our assessment overall. The policies provided for clear roles and accountability as well in terms of defining where the board needs to be involved more, the superintendent, and then also other district staff as well, to make sure that there's good transparency around who's making what decision and how. And really that leads to the last one as well in terms of good processes overall, particularly related to the budget, levy payments, and audits. Really wanting to make sure there's transparency and openness to decision making overall. In terms of, there we go, opportunities to strengthen oversight is really looking at more in terms of going just from a checklist to being more strategic about what the policies show. And that's common in terms of what you see with policies with whether it's K-12 or other local governments in terms of what policies look like. Kind of one example of that is looking at the fund balance policy in particular. Right now it's pretty basic in terms of showing a percent. What you would want to see more with a fund balance policy in particular is talking about use of reserves for specific purposes, and then also talking about what do you go about doing in terms of replenishment of your reserves as well. Again, being more specific to provide more coverage for the district. Really, we think of policies as being a legacy preservation type of tool. So when board members leave, other district personnel leave, there's good practices in place to provide guidelines and really to help protect the district overall, and really think about overall financial solvency and long-term resiliency in terms of the school district. So The other thing we would recommend too in terms of the policies is formalizing the production of a financial forecast to make sure that's a part of routine practice in terms of creating a policy to really codify the production of that. Clarify some of the policy thresholds as well. Like I mentioned with the fund balance policy, it's one thing to state a percentage, but also talking to you about what kind of goes behind that in terms of the rationale for creation of that percentage as well. And the last thing there we would recommend with the policies is routine policy review as well. Making that a part of the finance committee's kind of tasks in terms of an annual basis, in terms of having good discussion about whether or not the things that are required by policy are still relevant, or there are certain improvements that need to be made in terms of key specific areas as well. So. Challenging here. There we go. Okay. So looking at the forecasting methodology overall. So just kind of a quick overview of what the forecast is and what it produces. And again, thanks to T for providing us with so much information and being on call in terms of being able to answer our questions in terms of throughout the review as well. Very helpful to be able to just pick up the phone and ask some questions as we need to go through the review. So looking at the Excel-based, it's an Excel-based financial model overall. Really that serves as the basis for all of the financial reports for the district, serving as kind of that single source of truth. So it's a direct download in terms of specific detail from your financial system in terms of what serves as the basis for the financial forecast. There's good checks and balances in place to make sure things line up in terms of what's pulled down from the system as well. And again, it allows for a lot of detail as well in terms of using the Excel for that. So again, the one thing just to reinforce is that really serves as the source of truth for not only the forecast, but also for budget preparation, and then also for the monthly reports that are provided to you all as the board, and then also that are used for the conversations and discussions that are had with departments and school sites on an ongoing basis as well. There's conservative personnel assumptions that are used in the forecast as well. It really accounts for not only your staffed positions, but it also budgets fully the vacant positions as well for the district. So it's really more conservative in terms of the estimate within that forecast. So if you happen to go fully staffed, the forecast wouldn't vary considerably, because that's already accounted for in the forecast by making sure there's an allowance for those vacant positions by including them in the forecast and assuming you're going to be fully staffed up. So it allows for that forecast, again, to be a little more conservative, which is what you would rather be at in terms of a forecast as opposed to underestimating your expenditures. And again, that's common practice in terms of how forecasts are conducted as well. The non-personnel expenditures, those are used based upon what the actuals are from the prior year with a CPI inflation index, consumer price index, inflation index, which is again common practice, good practice, since that's based upon a well-known nationally available statistic. And then for things that might have higher costs, like I just heard you all discussing health insurance. So if there is something that's much more dramatic in terms of an expenditure increase that's known based upon conversations with the vendor or the provider or whoever's incurring the expense or incurring the expense on behalf of the district, that's included within the forecast as well. Some things to look at, I guess, overall in terms of strengths, risk, and improvement areas is listed up there. So again, the model uses actual data from the financial system itself. It's reviewed on a regular basis in terms of even providing weekly updated reports as well to the departments and school sites. Then again, providing those monthly reports to you all as well as the board. Again, that regular communication, that regular updating and review of the financial information is really important to ensure its accuracy. And it's just good practice to overall integrate that in terms of the conversations that are ongoing with the district, since the finances are so crucial for you all to keep the lights on, keep everyone paid, etc. The one thing that we view as a risk, and again, this is just inherent with any spreadsheet, any Excel-based financial forecast, is there's always an opportunity for something to break down in terms of a certain formula or the like, but there are a lot of checks and balances in terms of the financial forecast itself to make sure that things do align and do line up pretty well. It's kind of the weighing of the balance between buying a product from a vendor or producing your own in-house. Again, you can save time and effort possibly with purchasing a software solution for it, but you lose some of that ability to go in and know more about the weeds, so to speak, in terms of how the financial forecast is being produced. So again, it's just one of those trade-offs there in terms of losing some of that ability to go in and understand the nuance more. So the one thing that we'd also noted as well is the need to incorporate capital expenditures. The forecast looks more at funded items, which might be more routine maintenance related, as opposed to say maybe bigger ticket items that might come online that you might need to account for within the financial forecast. So having more conversations and tweaks in terms of how that's incorporated in the forecast would be a recommendation as well. The other thing as well, there's a lot of detail in terms of what's provided in the monthly report, which is great in terms of transparency, but there might be some opportunities for a little bit more of an executive summary type of format for that information to allow the layperson to understand that a little bit more quickly, as opposed to having to dig through so many footnotes in terms of reviewing it. So next slide here is talking more about the transparency checklist. Again, like I said before, in terms of the provided documents, the district is posting everything that is required by the Illinois School Code and ISB online in terms of what it needs to. The information is all readily accessible. When looking at some of the other LUDA districts, you had to do multiple clips or maybe look around in terms of the HR side of the house and then the business office or the finance website. So it's nice to have more of that kind of one-stop shop in terms of being able to look at those documents that are legally required in terms of what's posted for Round Lake. There's a summary, and sorry, that table up there is very, very tiny in terms of the items that are required. But the things that are required are anywhere from the annual statement of affairs, which talks a little bit more generally about not only the finances, but staffing, I think contract thresholds and some other items as well. The annual financial report, the ACFR that the district produces, and then a couple other items as well. Again, in terms of comparison to some of the other districts, good time period in terms of what's presented there. And again, a complete compliance in terms of what's legally required as well. So the LUDA comparative benchmarking, again, we talked with the district in terms of which of the LUDA districts were most applicable, since I think there's 50 or 60 districts that are part of LUDA. So obviously it'd be a little more difficult to go through and do a peer comparison for all 50 or 60 of those. So we selected about 5, as you can see up there. CUSD 300, Lake Zurich 95, Naperville 203, Waukegan 60, and then Woodstock 200. So peer comparison as well. Again, this talks a little bit more, and sorry, this table is a little bit busy in terms of the slide up there, but hopefully you can see it on your screens a little bit better. In terms of kind of the time span of what's posted in terms of the peer comparison districts as well, from again, through the AFR, the ASA, the audit or the ACFR, the budget, the forecasts, the vendor contracts, and then finally the treasurer's report, which is also kind of more commonly known as the monthly kind of budget to actuals report as well. I think the one thing of note, and particular note, is that only one other district produces a monthly report that's posted readily available online. Again, excuse me. Is Lake Zurich 95 is the only other district that does post a monthly report in terms of that financial information. And again, that's one of those key things to help you all get out more ahead and again, be more proactive as opposed to reactive with looking at the monthly financial performance of the district as opposed to waiting to year end or something that's less frequent than a monthly type of basis as well. Next slide here in terms of how the district compares to peer districts. I think I've kind of hit some of the highlights overall. So favorable financial reporting in terms of kind of not only the documents that are provided, but also the time span as well. Again, meeting all the legally required documents, but then also posting that monthly treasurer's report as well, which only one other district does. Again, regular financial updates, again, that relates back to the monthly financial report. The disclosures are quite detailed in terms of the supporting information and kind of walking through a narrative as to what the numbers are actually showing, which helps, again, in terms of understandability and transparency for folks who are digesting that data. And again, really, I would say enhanced transparency, especially with the provision of the monthly report in particular, is something of note. So, lessons and opportunities from peer practices. The one thing I would say maybe of note is there's interactive dashboards that are used by Lake Zurich 95 in particular. They do use an outside software vendor, so that does allow them to have more of a direct linkage in terms of being able to just quickly post up some of that information as opposed to it being from more flat files or static sources. Simplification of some of the multi-year forecasts as well. Again, sometimes providing more detail, especially in terms of the situation that you've just gotten out of more recently, is important to demonstrate kind of enhanced transparency and try to gain additional confidence. But maybe some simplification in terms of more bars and charts and graphs and the like going forward might help again with the kind of understandability and relatability of information to folks who are not financial experts. And then the last thing there is just again reinforcing the whole transparency aspect in terms of how that really helps to boost confidence overall in terms of not only the financial operations of the district, but how decisions are made and really helping to have a better informed public overall too. So budget development. So we talked a little bit more about the budget development process in particular with the district. Again, compared to past practices, the budget development process starts much earlier than it had in the past, which again allows more back and forth, more time to digest decisions that need to be made, better conversation, and more opportunity for comment and back and forth as well. So we view that as a plus. Again, lots more collaboration, I would say, in terms of the budget process. Good back and forth. There's routine conversations between finance and HR as well, which is a plus, especially given that there's 75 to 80% of your budget is related to personnel. So having that active conversation, again, is another plus. The financial monitoring, I would say, is quite strong in terms of not only the monthly reports that are provided to you, but the weekly reports that are provided to what are called budget officers within the departments and at the school sites as well. Allows them to, again, have that back and forth and have something in front of them continuously so they're able to get out ahead in terms of any issues that might be uncovered from that regular dissemination of data. And then also, too, just talking more about some of the other enhancements in terms of ensuring that transfers are done on a regular basis to ensure that individual account lines are balanced as opposed to waiting till year end and doing more of a mass true up. Again, it just provides for better alignment in terms of the overall financial operations of the district. So next steps and kind of the ongoing opportunities here. Again, something I kind of preluded to at the top of the presentation is this: what can you do to overall kind of strengthen all of the enhancements that have been made over the last 6 months to a year in terms of more standard operating procedures, better documentation, and just reinforcing what you can do in terms of making sure that becomes a part of routine practice, that it's not just a one-off or something that's associated with the current CFO, that it's something that's going to survive and really help guide the district for years and years and decades to come in terms of ensuring overall financial sustainability and resiliency as an organization. So, and some of the other things too that we would just recommend up there in terms of what you can do to automate some of maybe the budget development process, moving from spreadsheets to maybe fillable forms, or there's some other things that you can use to just kind of help take some of the burden off of folks and take some of the back and forth in terms of passing of information around as well via email and the like. So again, it's enhancements that we often recommend with districts, but just items of note and kind of things to strive for in the future. So I got to the question slide. So
I just had a quick one. Matt, I'm sorry. Yes, there's a speaker there. It's pretty funny, I know. Plus, I'm probably losing my hearing, so I'm a little louder than I think I am. What do you have an example, just literally by name? Because I'm just honestly, I'm not familiar with it. Just curious. What would a non-spreadsheet solution be for school districts? I'm very involved at LUDA, EdRed, and I never hear people talking about that thing. Is there one, or like if I asked you, could you recommend two that we could look at? What are those?
I mean, recommend, I don't know if I would recommend necessarily.
How about name?
A name, I mean, would be Forecast 5, Frontline Education. They're one of the more common ones that's used in the state of Illinois. It's kind of tends to be state by state on some level. Frontline is a national product that's pretty well known, but they're able to take in a whole lot of financial information and through their formulas, and they probably have spreadsheets that are embedded in terms of all kinds of sophisticated coding or whatever that, kind of is over my head.
So
in terms
you're,
of how that works.
I'm
So,
familiar with both of those, but you're actually saying they offer a solution that isn't just building the forecast, it's actually budget development. Are you not sure?
I wouldn't say budget development
Okay.
necessarily. It's more just the forecasting.
Forecasting.
process.
Okay, that's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. One-stop solutions are pretty rare in terms of being able to kind of meet all of those needs. So I think that's why a lot of folks do the more customized in-house. So, yeah.
So I know, it was mentioned in this presentation about strengthening board policy and probably creating some, and we spoke about that way back in the early segments of the financial situation that we're in. So I was hoping that the board would have time to review and give feedback back to the finance committee, because we will be looking at board policy, either strengthening or creating, and working with Dr. Mendoza and Ms. Ames Soul to get this documented and create that policy. So I will be working with the board attorneys. But I would appreciate your feedback.
And the other thing that we'll do is, and by the way, I just want to thank you for coming. And I think anytime we have another set of eyes, and I always think that's positive, so we have recommendations. I think what we're going to do is the team will establish a cadence of reporting back on all of the recommendations. So I think there's 4 or 5 slides in here that list opportunities for improvement with specific direction. Obviously, we can't do it all at once, but I will work with the finance committee to establish priorities. And then when we act on these, we will bring them back to let you know that we've acted on it, what it looks like. Like, for example, I know what Matt is talking about with Lake Zurich with, interestingly, taking complex information and making it easier for our community, which I got feedback on already, which is great. So I just want to reiterate, we're going to take this and use it and bring report back to you.
Additional questions or conversation? Hearing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up is any questions in regards to the FOIA report as listed from the board for the administration? Hearing none there, we'll go to reviewing contracts under 1,000. Didn't have anything to report this cycle, which will then lead us to opportunity for public comment. As always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person, and please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Did we have any local public comment this evening? Hearing none there, I will then transition to Dr. Mendoza and this cycle's superintendent's report.
Thank you, Board President Francisco. Round Lake District 116 was recently featured in the Lake County Regional Office of Education newsletter for its Future Ready program. That's our college and career pathways, which prepares students for post-secondary success through a focus on employability skills and strong community partnerships. The article highlights the program's collaboration with Goodwill's Empower Youth initiative, providing students with hands-on career readiness support and extended services beyond graduation. Interest in the program continues to grow with strong student participation and a current wait list. Thank you. Special shout out to Sarah LeBlanc, Carolyn Adamson, and Jessica Crone for their collaboration in making this feature possible. Capstone graphics students recently took part in a hands-on learning experience during a commercial shoot at Round Lake Pizza Ranch. Students were able to observe and assist a professional production crew, gaining insight into real-world filming techniques, equipment, and the collaborative nature of media production. The experience brought their classroom learning to life and provided meaningful exposure to potential career pathways in the industry. A special thank you, another call out to Principal Brian Peterson, who's in the audience here, for helping Director of Teaching and Learning, Jessica Crone. Another call out to organize this opportunity on a very tight timeline. This was a fantastic experience for our students. They returned energized and excited about what they learned. In April, the district recognized students in kindergarten, second, and fifth grade in our dual language program for their commitment to become bilingual. Students were honored with certificates and a small token of appreciation to celebrate their progress and dedication. This recognition highlights the value of bilingualism in building cultural understanding, strengthening connections, and expanding future opportunities. Our dual language students continue to demonstrate adaptability, creativity, and determination, and we are proud to celebrate the important role they play in strengthening our school community. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions for Dr. Mendoza? Hearing none there, we will then transition to committee reports and this evening's community engagement.
Hello, good evening. Okay, so tonight we had kind of a light agenda as far as items, but we did discuss, the Community Engagement Committee was able to take part in kind of an offshoot of the Parent Teacher Advisory Committee. We had a group meeting last week, and we had just kind of a small group of people, about 18 people come together. It was a collection of parent guardians, teachers, staff members, obviously Julie and I. And we had kind of a facilitated discussion regarding several items, but student behavior code, for example, health and wellness, the cell phone procedures. There were several things we discussed, and we just got feedback relating to those discussions from the group of people. So we kind of had sort of themes come out that we discussed tonight, and there's going to be some line items that will come back next month that we'll discuss more. But in general, it was just a really, really positive experience. We got a lot of positive feedback in relation to the way that we implemented our disciplinary, sort of the consistency in and around that. We got a lot of positive feedback about the e-learning days and the implementation of those, the lesser of those. A lot of really good feedback on the cell phone procedures. Some of the things that we kind of discussed were ways to sort of bullet point highlight to our people in our area, health and mental health and kind of resources that we have a lot of resources in general in and around the areas that we discussed. So kind of how do we get those out to those people? So we'll have more to come on this next time. But all in all, I want to highlight it was just such a positive experience. I was grateful for the people that came. We ended up staying an extra half an hour just chatting, and we just had such good conversations that nobody really wanted to leave. They just wanted to continue the conversation. So, which is an unusual circumstance, and it was something that we were grateful for, with especially the parents and the teachers. So, more to come with that, but that was kind of the main discussion points. And then if you guys get a chance, check the packet. They have all of the wonderful things that we have coming up. There's quite a few wonderful events coming up in the next couple weeks because we're in May and it's busy. So get a chance, look at the communications Snapchat. And that was essentially it.
Hearing no additional conversation, thank you very much. And that will take us to approval of open meeting minutes.
I need a motion to approve the April 20th, 2026 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Miss Lee. Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the following items. The accounts payable report for $1,092,700.33 and the May 4th, 2026 employment report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Lee. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to introduction of new administrators, and I have no idea who I'm passing it to. Okay.
Boy,
there we go.
don't you
I
both go
told
out
you I
there.
I'll own that one.
Good evening, members of Board of Education. It is my pleasure to introduce Kyle Monastero as our recommended candidate for the Coordinator of Educational Services at the secondary level here in Round Lake Area School District 116. Kyle brings a strong, people-centered leadership approach grounded in collaboration and inclusivity with a deep commitment to both students and staff. His leadership style prioritizes listening, partnership, and shared ownership. Kyle currently serves as the Special Education Department Chair at Round Lake Middle School. Prior to this role, he was a Special Education Curriculum and Instruction Specialist and a Special Education teacher within our district. He has been a dedicated member of our district for the past 12 years, and prior to that, spent 8 years as a special education teacher at both the middle and high school levels. One of Kyle's greatest strengths is his extensive experience within our system, understanding of our community, and positioning him to be effective immediately. He articulated a clear vision centered on inclusive practices and high expectations for all students, supported by thoughtful, experience-based responses. What stood out most is his genuine compassion. He is deeply committed to supporting both staff and students while emphasizing meaningful professional development. On a personal note, Kyle lives in McHenry with his family. His wife is an elementary special education teacher, and together they're raising 2 sons, Caden and Levi. They enjoy spending time outdoors, and their boys are actively involved in soccer and lacrosse. Kyle's professional strengths, combined with his personal values, make him an excellent fit for this role in our district community. It is with great confidence that I recommend Kyle Monastero for this position.
Dear members of the school board, Dr. Don Mendoza, and Ms. Sharon Jacoboulos, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude for this opportunity. I'm truly honored by your trust and your confidence, and I'm excited to take my experience serving Round Lake School District as a special education teacher, a curriculum instruction specialist, and a department chair to contribute to the success of this district. I look forward to working collaboratively with you, with staff, students, and the community to support student achievement and foster a positive learning environment. Thank you again for this opportunity, and may we continue to inspire and empower students to construct a thriving future.
All right, good evening, everybody. As many of you know, that at Round Lake High School, we've established our core values, which is our North Star for where we want to go as a building. While looking into candidates to fill the position of assistant principal of student or educational services, we made sure that we embedded these core values in our questionings and conversations that we had with our candidates. Throughout the process, Jeff Neiman, he met all those core values, and without doubt, he has the core competencies to be successful in this position, whether it's his technical expertise, ability to lead, and what means the most to me was how he cares about students. And I've done reference checks many times in my career, and I have to say it's been a long time since your references gave the glowing reviews that they did. And it wasn't just about their ability to lead, it was how much they truly care about the people that they work with. So, you know, it's often difficult in interviews to get those 2 core values of respect and integrity to see where those are. But each one of the references that I talked to, one, they were extremely sad that they're not currently working with you anymore, or that they would continue to work with you, and that you will be a large addition to our team. So tonight, it's my privilege to welcome Jeff Neiman.
I second what Kyle was saying earlier. Great. I don't know if I can follow that, but I think that's incredible. Yeah, my biggest thing that I talk about is consistency, communication, building relationships. And those are three things that I always have done in my teaching career. This is actually my second career. I was a college football coach for about 6 years, bounced around. But the one thing I've always learned is communication, building those relationships with the students, the staff, and most importantly, the families. We need them to be on board with what we're doing so we can continue to grow and, have each student succeed at wherever their goals are. I talk about my personal life a lot. I have an older brother who is intellectually disabled. So I've seen special education from the being in the school, being a part of the family. I've seen some great teachers. I've seen, not some great, but that's my passion and my goal to continue to build that. And I want to thank Brian Peterson. I want to thank the board for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to having a successful year. Thank you.
We'll quiz you on that vision statement in a couple weeks.
All right, we will now transition to old business, and first up on that is the bid award recommendation for small group transportation.
Okay, at our last finance committee meeting, we reviewed this information. This is the first year that we've gone out to bid for what we're calling individual and small group transportation services. We have traditionally, over the last year anyway, we've been working with Alto Transportation and Topline for these services. We had 4 bids for this service this time around, and Topline was our lowest bidder. So that's listed here at $267 per route for a passenger van. For the wheelchair van, $391 per route, and then with an aid is $169.25 per route.
Any questions from the board? And then follow up.
Thank you. I was just going to add again, as Mrs. Bennett mentioned, this was at finance, and just wanted to point out because it was just a question that came up at finance. We bought the minivans recently. Those minivans are not able to be used to service this student population. That's for our door-to-door routes. I just wanted to make sure because that was a great question that came up at finance.
And we'll continue to explore those opportunities, both with pulling back additional outsourced routes for special education purposes and also for McKinney-Vento when possible.
All right, hearing no additional conversation.
I need a motion to approve the bid award of individual and small group transportation services for the 2026-2027 school year to Topline Transportation.
So
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mrs. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Miss Lee.
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will now transition us to the tentative FY27 budget for display.
Thank you, Board of Education, for giving me the opportunity to discuss our FY26 tentative amended budget for display. Our amended budget is anticipated to have its hearing on June 15th, the board meeting of June 15th. That will be for both the FY27 and FY26 budget. FY27 budget is what I'm discussing, and I had my 26 notes. I apologize. Let's see here. If we take a look at our operating funds, the operating revenue from the last time it was presented to the Finance Committee until now did not materially change. It went up about $65,000 in various areas, but nothing that was of a material nature. If we take a look at our operating expenditures also did not materially change in the FY27 budget. They actually went down $3,000. However, different line items did change. Most significantly, if you look at our salaries and benefits as a whole, they changed by about $31,000. But we did see a large increase in one area and decreases in other areas. The major change that we saw was the longevity and severance section increased significantly after meeting with human resources and getting the projections for FY27. We have incorporated those projections for what those longevity and severance payments would be, and that caused an increase in that area. Our other financing sources also increased. They increased to account for the Apple lease for FY27 as well as just the Apple lease for FY27. We have included a $600,000 transfer of other financing sources and uses, and those appear at the very bottom of the screen. When you see other financing sources and other financing uses, they're not considered part of your regular expenditures. They're transfers between our fund balance. And every time we enter into a lease for our Apple contract, we have to send the funds to our debt service fund in order to pay those. One thing I did want to note is that as compared to FY26, we have about $950,000 that we're transferring to cover our lease payments. In FY27, our plan is to only transfer about $600,000, even though we anticipate the lease will be similar in nature, about the $950,000. The reason we have a difference between those two is because our plan is to use some of the fund balance in the debt service fund to cover those payments instead of using our valuable ed fund balance and transferring that fund balance. If we have any leftover fund balance, and how do you get at leftover fund balance in the debt service fund? You get that because every year the county does levy about 1% more than our bond payments. Now, we don't receive 100% of our bond payments, which is why they do that. But we still collect about 97.7% of those payments, so that little bit of extra accumulates. And as the district is entering its final about 3 or 4 years of bond payments, we can start to project out what that extra fund balance would be and utilize that fund balance for other resources. So the plan for FY27 would be to only transfer about $600,000. The rest of those lease payments for FY27 would be utilizing the fund balance in the debt service fund. So speaking of the debt service fund had no change in revenue, and its expenditures reduced by about $88,000. They were reduced in order to reflect our actual debt service payments. So what I did is I took our actual debt service payments that are scheduled out over next year, as well as our lease payments, projected those out, and the difference between what we had previously and what we are now projecting is about $88,000. If we take a look at our capital projects fund had no change in the budget between revenues or expenditures. So that is exactly the same as it was before. You will notice in FY27, we have nothing budgeted for revenue and nothing budgeted for expenditures. I lied. We have $5,000 budgeted for revenue, but we have no real expenditures budgeted, and that is a reflection of exactly what Baker Tilly discussed, that we do not have funding sources for capital projects at this point. So any major capital projects that we would encounter, if they cannot be covered with the operations and maintenance budget, we would be coming to the board to try to discuss a game plan as to, one, if these are needs or wants, and number two, how we would fund those needs or wants. So as we're looking at the budget as a whole, we have a $1.574 million surplus in the operating funds. Just a reminder, that is with keeping our teachers on the 24-25 salary schedule. that's what the surplus reflects if we keep them on the 24-25 salary schedule. As a whole, the debt service fund is not considered part of your, whether or not you have a surplus or whether or not you have a deficit. You can see it shows a deficit, but the deficit isn't because we necessarily have deficit spending. It is the difference between when the funding comes in from our levy and when we actually pay out those payments. And that's your FY27 budget for display. We are asking tonight that a resolution be passed to place this budget on display. It is required to be on display for 30 days. And we would be meeting those requirements if we place it on display beginning tomorrow at 9 a.m. And that concludes our FY27 budget for display.
And just one, it's a little bit nuanced, but when Miss Ames Soul talked about keeping our teachers on the 24-25 schedule, they're not frozen. They're getting their step increase, which is roughly 2.5%. So I just want to be clear, the teachers aren't frozen. They should actually be on the 25-26 schedule this year and 26-27. So we have some work to do, but I just wanted to highlight that.
Any additional conversation or questions from the board?
I just wanted to add, as Ms. Amesel, I think she mentioned this was at the last finance meeting, and I just wanted to call out a few things for the board and for the community. As I know she highlighted the corporate tax. We all know that Target is coming in to our community, what that might look like. It's not going to be a windfall, we know that, but it still behooves us to be in communication and in contact with the village on what effect it may have for Round Lake schools. And then just further, as we've talked about the budget, specifically special education, how we can, monitor that, because we know that area of the budget fluctuates a lot. But how do we keep an eye on it and monitor that? So those are conversations that finance has had with administration.
All right, hearing no additional conversation.
I need a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2027 tentative budget for display as presented. Establish a public hearing for Monday, June 15th, 2026 at 7 p.m. as required by the Illinois School Code. Adopt the attached resolution and authorize administration to execute, file, and or publish all associated necessary documents in compliance with statutory requirements.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, second by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Ms. Lee? Yes. Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to the tentative FY26.
Again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss our FY26 tentative amended budget. If we look at our operating revenue has actually increased by about $526,000 from the last meeting to this meeting, but the majority of that, about $490,000 of that, were grant changes, which also include expenditure changes. So even though we saw an increase in revenue, associated expenditures also increased, which then netted to a zero impact on the overall budget. If we look at our operating expenditures, they went up $223,000. Again, the majority of this change was to stipends and other salaries and benefits, and that was to reflect the projections for longevity and severance that we obtained from Human Resources. If we take a look at our debt service fund, our debt service did not materially change in revenue, but our operating expenditures or debt service expenditures reduced by about $673,000 to reflect what we anticipate our actual debt service payments to be for FY26. When we take a look at our capital and also other financing sources of $951,000 were included to account for that Apple lease from FY26 and the payments that would need to come from the debt service fund to make those payments. If we take a look at our capital projects revenue did increase by $330,000. This was mainly due to what we are anticipating to be DCEO grants, as well as the school maintenance grant allocations that we anticipate we'll receive. Now, depending on the timing of these projects and when those are actually filed, we may see that revenue come in FY27, but we've budgeted it in FY26 just in case, along with the expenditures. Generally, the expenditures will mimic the revenue, so if we don't spend it this year, we would not accrue the revenue this year, and if we don't, and so both the revenue and the expenditure would be in FY27 if we have a situation where the timing is not sufficient, where those projects are finished before June 30th. And if we take a look at our capital projects revenue, our expenditures, they increased by about $888,000. We had discussed that at the Finance Committee to reflect anticipated closeout costs and what we're anticipating all of our capital projects to be. But along with that, our other financing sources and uses increased to about $1.7 million. That is to account for mainly, if you remember when we came to the board to do the fund balance transfer into capital projects for all of our summer projects, we had, for example, in that board report that the baseball softball field would cost $3.5 million. It is now more like $4.3 million, which requires additional fund balance. So that's the majority of what we are transferring this money for, but it's also for some of those other projects that, for example, are coming in over. We also had the DCEO grant that had $588,000 that we have to respend, and we have to spend it using vendors that are BEP compliant in order to do that. So that also is requiring additional fund balance that we hadn't previously transferred. So our FY26 amended budget now includes those transfers, which we anticipate to come from our interest income, as we have done in the past. So not a major change. It is taking away from our operating fund balances, but it will hopefully help us get us to the point where we can finalize all those projects that we have out there and currently remaining for FY26. If you take a look at our all fund summary, we had originally anticipated over a $3 million deficit. We are now anticipating a $2.7 million deficit. So that's good. That shows that, our budget officers are really trying to make frugal and wise decisions and really assessing needs versus wants, which has helped us bring that cost down a little bit. Again, as I mentioned before, the budget that is being put on display both for FY26 and FY27 will likely change between now and when it's adopted. We have consulted with our attorneys just to verify that it can change between when it's put up for display and when it's adopted, and they have confirmed that with us. And that concludes your FY26 tentative amended budget for display.
Again, just to add, as we talked about the corporate taxes with Target, we also, the Finance Committee talked about tuition and registration fees, as you saw what is showing on the budget. Those are, and I know these are conversations the board has had in years past, what we're collecting versus what is still outstanding. So we're going to revisit those, and we're going to get those numbers at the next finance meeting. We just asked for a change in a footnote in regards to stipends, just for further clarification. Just with reading it, it could be interpreted in a different way. We just wanted to make sure that was more clear. And then, again, as we've talked about, special education. And then we also talked about our utility costs. Again, if you look at that budget and what our utility costs are, same thing with special ed. We needed to manage and monitor that better. So working with Mr. Fink in regards to that.
Any additional conversation or question? Hearing none.
Right. I need a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2026 tentative amended budget for display as presented. Establish the public hearing for Monday, June 15th, 2026 at 7 p.m. As required by Illinois School Code, adopt the attached resolution and authorize administration to execute, file, and or publish all associated necessary documents in compliance with statutory requirements.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, second by Mrs. Klingler. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Miss Lee, yes.
Motion carries. And that will take us to Dr. Mendoza and the county school facility tax.
Yeah, so this is on as an action item. So the administration is respectfully requesting, if needed, the board have additional discussion, but also respectfully asking that you take action on this item. As a gentle reminder, this is the third time this item has been on the board agenda. The first time, I believe, was on March 30th for information only. And it relates to the county school facility occupation tax, which is a voter-approved countywide sales tax. This specific question would be in the amount of 1%, designed to fund school facility projects, things like, include that, but are not limited to, renovations, construction, infrastructure, cannot be used for the most part, 99%. I'll talk about the one exception. For operating, salaries, benefits, it's not allowed. The one exception is if it's included on the ballot and it passes, if their language includes mental health professionals, you could pay school resource officers and potentially even counselors with these funds. As a gentle reminder to the board, this is an enrollment-based tax. What you're actually voting on tonight is not the tax itself. It would literally mean to authorize the regional Office of Education superintendent to place the question on the November ballot to let the community decide. But even if you were to pass the resolution, it would only go on the ballot if school boards that comprised 51% or more of the county's population also authorized the measure. In simple terms, using recent enrollment data from last year, countywide, that would generate about $121 million, of which, based on 6,400 student enrollment, that would mean over $6 million for the district to use for said purpose that I outlined. Additionally, should the question go on the ballot in November, if it fails, the board would have to authorize another resolution. A couple of things that I'd like to highlight. One in particular, there are exemptions to the tax, things like RVs, boats, automobiles, medical devices. I know Ms. Negretti McGinley asked about that. So for your convenience, we've actually included the entire deck again for you. I do not plan on going through that deck again. I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions if you have them, but again, we're asking the board to take action this evening.
So we know we have it on our agenda, and obviously we're not the only district that this is being brought to, and we need, as you mentioned, 51% of the districts in our county. Does the regional superintendent office know, or what's the deadline, so that we would know it may or may not be on the ballot for the community?
Yeah, so the deadline to get the authorization is very late. It's in August. The reason that we superintendents are being asked to ask the school boards is no later than May, because if there's enough support for this, there needs to be a process for educating the community. And if you wait till August, it's very hard to accomplish that.
Any additional questions or conversation? Hearing none.
I need a motion to approve a resolution directing the regional superintendent of schools for the county of Lake, Illinois, to certify to the county clerk of said county the question of imposing a retailer's occupation tax and a service occupation tax to be used exclusively for school facility purposes, school resource officers, and mental health professionals for submission to the electors of said county at the general election to be held on the third day of November 2026 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Lee. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
No.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will transition us to new business.
Good evening again. As we do annually, we submit the administrator and confidential staff salaries in one document for your review and for a motion to approve these contracts for the 2026-2027 school year.
No, I mean, this came to the board, to the whole board for review, so that this wasn't specifically for finance.
Any additional questions from what is posted here? Hearing none there.
All right, I need a motion to approve the administrator and confidential employee contracts for the 2026-2027 school year as listed.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Klingler. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to positive occurrences.
I'll start. Sorry.
Please.
I was waiting for you. I just wanted to say happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all of the district teachers out there. I've had a student in this district since 2007, and I've had the opportunity to meet with many of them, and I've built a lot of good relationships, and I call a lot of them my friends. But more importantly, the impact that they've had on my kids is very meaningful to me, and I just want to say thank you. They educate them, they are mentors, they're coaches, sometimes they're counselors, sometimes they're just a sounding board, and when the kids are going through a hard time, that's greatly appreciated. Also, congratulations to our Lake County Educators of the Year who were nominated and who will be recognized this week on Wednesday. We have a lot going on this week, and I'm so excited. The band grand finale concert is this week. The grand finale art show is this week. The choir, grand finale choir concert is this week. Prom was last weekend, and it was so great to see all these kids dressed up and looking so sharp and having a good time. And from what I've heard, they had a great time. The ones who went to the after prom, I know had a really good time too. So thank you for putting that together. The senior grad bash is this weekend. My goodness. And also to highlight the parent teacher advisory committee meeting that we attended this past week. Really a lot of great conversations were had, and like Ms. Klingler said before, we stayed a half an hour late. It was because we just wanted to keep talking about it, and we had a lot of positive feedback, and of course, communication to us on where we can improve. But it was so great to have good conversations with the staff and with parents of the community. It left me feeling really good, and that's it for me.
I'll just reiterate, there's nothing more can be said when it comes to the staff and the educators. The role they serve in our community is second to none and just cannot be cannot be filled any better than by the ones that we have here. Calendar wise, definitely we are in what we call our silly season. We've got the Educator of the Year awards on Wednesday night. In addition to that, we've got our athletic banquet on Monday night coming up on the 11th. We've got the Fine Arts Senior Banquet on the 12th. We've got graduation on the 15th. Yep, it's here already. We've got middle school ceremony, promotion ceremony on the 18th. And that's all before our next board meeting, which is actually going to be on Tuesday the 19th, just as a public service notice there. We moved it to the 19th because of those middle school promotion ceremonies. So keep that on your agenda as well. Definitely, I will chime in again on prom. It was great seeing all the pictures and the actions and the activities. A great time was had by all. They're already looking forward to the Six Flags graduation bash on Saturday night. For those parents who have to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, thank you very much for that. We appreciate you. But again, thank you all, and especially to all the administrators, teachers, especially the teachers, the staff, everyone inside the buildings. The work that you put in is seen. It's just and it's seen by the great quality of the students we have coming out of our district, and you can see it in. I love watching the social media with the counselors department, with all of the commitments, with what schools they're going to, what they're studying, and the range of what they're studying is just so tremendous. And our community is only going to keep getting stronger because of it. So thank you for that amazing work.
I'm going to keep this really short, but I think our biggest resource, our most important resource, our staff. This is if you haven't worked, I'm envious with the board and certain people on the team that have been here for years and years. I'm not trying to age anybody, but it's a very, very unique place. It just really is. It's my 4th district. It'll be my last district. And I would just tell you it is said repeated to me in some of these outside groups with which I'm affiliated, the staff, the community, our kids, and really our teachers and staff. When I say teachers, generally staff, all staff, bus drivers. It's a very, very unique, special place. I'm actually humbled and privileged to be part of it. And just, what we're doing for the staff is just really a small token of our appreciation, but it's a very special place because of the people we have. So it's always about the people.
So I would reiterate all those things said, but, again, just a sincere appreciation to our teachers. As an alumni of this district, I know I am who I am because of the teachers here. That can be good or bad, depending on who you ask. But I know, I am grateful for the education I received here and to be part of this district. And I'm thankful for the teachers I've had for my kids. I have a son who's a teacher and a daughter who's getting her doctorate. And that's really proud. I'm really proud to say that they came from Round Lake, and they are proud to say that too. I think it goes to the caliber of teachers that we have here at Round Lake. I know I had shared with others. We had dinner with my son's kindergarten teacher not that long ago, who's moving to Florida. That's the impact these teachers have. They are lifelong educators to our students, and I'm grateful for that.
I'm sorry, I just have to reiterate. I know we're all repeating it, but I've been blessed to move into this community. I was not from here. I'm from Michigan. So I've been here since 2013. And when we came here, I have kids that range in their education needs. So some needed extra help and some didn't. But I was so impressed by the patience and the kindness that was shown on both sides of that, because some of that, there can be nuances and challenges to both of that. Somebody who's very advanced and somebody who is struggling. And just the care and compassion shown and the dedication to getting them ready for just their life and helping me to get them ready for their life. And I wanted to be part of it in some fashion and help in any way I could because I was so impressed with it. It was the teachers that did it because we had had a lot of experiences in Michigan, some that were really good and some that were really poor. And this has been the best by far out of all of them. So that's actually the reason I ended up on the board, is because I was so totally touched and just my heart was just moved by how well the teachers interacted with the children in so many different ways. So I just can't say it enough. And I just love our staff, and from teachers to bus drivers to even our lunch ladies and custodians and, you know, support staff. And I can't say enough good things about everybody that works in the building. They all seem to genuinely care and have the best interest at heart for the students. So thank you for letting me repeat everything you just said. I'm done now.
I concur.
Great, I'm the
Sorry.
one that's gonna look bad if I don't say something. I can't say anything that you guys haven't said, so, and working in the field, I know how it feels when you don't get acknowledged, so, I mean, our people are the best. I've known this since I joined the board back when my kids were in kindergarten, and now they're halfway through college. And a large part of that is due to the education here and the teachers that they had, and every interaction that they had, and the librarians, the nurses, everything, our bus drivers. You guys are their family when they're away from their family, and it's huge. And I definitely don't take that for granted.
Sorry, back to me again. Also shout out to the school nurses. Nurses Week starts on the 6th. So I appreciate them as well. And also to highlight, just Mr. Peterson, my son's college essay included, credited Mr. Baird as an inspiration to the field that he wants to gravitate to. So thank you. I did last week, but you can let him know too.
All right. We will cap that there, and we can't reiterate it enough, so thank you. We'll move on to future agenda items. Anyone? Hearing nothing there, then we will move to approval of closed session minutes reviewed at prior meetings.
Need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of April 20th, 2026, regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I was going to say, okay, I was going to.
All right, redact that. And I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of March 30th, 2026, regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, second by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Miss Lee, yes, Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley.
Yes.
Motion carries, and that will take us to, I need a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by statute 5 ILCS 120/2 for the purpose of discussing the following: closed meeting minutes 5 ILCS 120/2 C21 and employment matters 5 ILCS 120/2 C1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Mr. De Vera. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call, please.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Miss Lee, yes.
Motion carries. That will take us to closed session. We will have additional open session after our closed session meeting and action resulting from. So for those online, hold tight. We'll be back with you. For everyone else, again, keep in mind that next meeting is on Tuesday. On that Tuesday, it's not a Monday meeting coming up, so it's on the 19th. So Tuesday the 19th will be our next regular board meeting. Thank you. All right, welcome back to open session, 9:17 p.m. on May the 4th. We have action resulting from closed session.
I need a motion to approve the dismissal of educational support personnel employee Peggy Kusha.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, second by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Miss Lee. Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion for the approval of closed session meeting minutes of April 20th, 2026, regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, second by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley,
Yes.
Miss Lee. Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to adjournment. We are adjourned tonight at 9:18 p.m. Thank you all and have a great evening. And just a quick reminder again, next meeting will be on May the 19th, Tuesday, May the 19th at 7 p.m. Thank you.